Welcome to Absolute Trust Talk with your host, Kirsten Howe. Absolute Trust Talk brings you tips, tools, advice, and interviews to help you build a reliable knowledge base on estate planning, business, and finance to start preparing for your future today.
Hello and welcome to Absolute Trust Talk. I'm Kirsten Howe, the managing attorney at Absolute Trust Counsel, and here with me is Ariana Flynn, one of our associate attorneys. And you may notice that our hair and our clothing are the same as they were in the last episode because we're recording these back to back. If you recall from our last episode, we were talking about healthcare planning, end of life planning, and we talked about two legal documents that we include in our estate plan. Today, we're going to continue that conversation, but we're going to be talking about medical documents. These are doctor's orders that clients, in our case, clients, in the doctor's case, patients, prepare together with their doctor to address some of their treatment and end of life concerns. And there are two of them that we're going to talk about that we get a lot of questions about these in our estate planning, but they are not legal documents, so we can't prepare them for our clients. All we can do is talk to them and educate them about it. And that's what we're doing here today. Ariana, do you want to talk about the first one?
Yes, absolutely. So the first one is the DNR document, and that stands for a do not resuscitate. This is an emergency medical protective order that the EMS or the emergency medical services are pretty accustomed with. They're able to understand what that document is. And the purpose of it is to instruct the EMS, the emergency team, or if you're at the hospital, right, the emergency response team there, that your preferences regarding any emergency life-sustaining treatment. So things like CPR, the chest compressions, assisted ventilation, intubation, defibrillation, those things to kind of when the heart stops to get them back going. So these are more so immediate emergency kind of interventions rather than compared to the Advanced Healthcare Directive, where those are more life-sustaining over a longer term period of time and not so much emergency in the moment type of treatments there. So that's kind of how those two differ. The DNR obviously has to be signed by the patient themselves or their healthcare decision maker at the time, and then also by their physician, so their doctor. It becomes a part of the patient's medical record, so the hospitals should have that DNR. They transfer hospitals, right? It should be transferred as well. And it doesn't mean that they can't receive any type of treatment. It is a preference on which treatments they do and do not want to. Again, these are revocable documents, so the patient could revoke that document at any time or change it at any time if they so want to. And it is like one of those documents that is accessible by the staff, so it should be visible and present in front of the medical staff at all times, especially if they are in a situation where emergency services is more likely to be provided to.
Yeah, and that is maybe one of the most important points about it. If you've decided that you want a do not resuscitate order entered into your medical record, maybe because you're elderly and fragile, or you've got some long-term chronic illness, or even a terminal illness, this order basically, how it works is it says, if you ever find me lying on the sidewalk and I'm not breathing, my heart's not going, don't administer CPR. I don't want chest compressions. I don't want the paddles, whatever you want to say. But this is a doctor's order. Therefore, the emergency team can follow it and they're not going to get in trouble. It's to basically say, I'm taking responsibility. I don't want CPR. You are off the hook. Because if a paramedic rolls up to somebody lying on the sidewalk, they have to start chest compressions. That's what they have to do. That's their job. But if you have this, they don't, and they won't. But unless they see that order, they will, because that's their job. That's what they're legally required to do. So Ariana's point about it needs to be available, it needs to be nearby, is the very important one. It would be in your permanent record, but your permanent record is, at Kaiser, or it's at John Muir. It's not
Right.
It's on your forehead. It's not tattooed on you. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people will keep this, like on the refrigerator or someplace handy. If they're at home, they can grab it. They can show it to the paramedics when they arrive. And I suppose you could carry it around with you, or have, whoever you travel around with carry it. But it's only effective if the emergency personnel are aware of it, I guess is my point. The California Medical Association has these forms on their website. You can access them and you can fill them out with your doctor. It has to be signed by a doctor to be valid. Okay, so let's talk about the next one. Ariana, do you want to get started on that one?
Yes, absolutely. So the next one is kind of a expansion of the DNR. So it goes beyond the DNR with more interventions, and it's the POLST form. That stands for the Physician's Order for Life-Sustaining Treatment. And this is a medical kind of order that gives really ill patients the ability to choose specific types of interventions that go beyond just that end of life, right? Emergency type service intervention at that moment. So things like intubation, nutrition, artificial hydration that are more life-sustaining over a longer period of time rather than the emergency. Again, the POLST is typically for really ill or very fragile or elderly patients. And again, the POLST has to be signed by the physician, nurse practitioner, physician assistant, as well as the person in the ability to make those decisions, the patient or the healthcare decision maker at the time.
Yeah, it's like a DNR, but the DNR is very narrow. It's just don't resuscitate me. That's the only issue in the DNR. In the POLST, you can say anything that you and your doctor want to say. You can say anything, and it becomes a doctor's order such that if your doctor is not in the room and you are unconscious, people know what they're supposed to do. It's a doctor's order. The POLST is much more common with our elderly clients. A lot of our elderly clients have POLSTs, and it's a hot pink form. If you've ever seen it, you'll remember it. It's printed on hot pink paper for a reason, because it's got to be something that people will look at. They're going to find it easily. And again, I think my clients put them on the refrigerator, and if emergency personnel ever show up, they show it to them, or you can grab it and bring it to the hospital. I know a lot of people in assisted living facilities and skilled nursing have POLSTs, and they have them just right there by the bed.
Right.
Okay, so these are two things that may be more specific to people with particular health concerns. They are doctor's orders. We as lawyers can't help you with them, except we can educate you about them. And that's the goal here today. Ariana, anything else that we need to add about either of these?
Yeah, just I guess one additional comment is that these go hand in hand with each other. You don't just want the DNR, the POLST, or the Advanced Healthcare Directive. You want a combination of all of them that they apply to you, because the healthcare directive, the Advanced Healthcare Directive, is a legal document that appoints the agent. POLST and DNR are a little bit more specific on the therapies and interventions, specifically to the emergency medical services and to the physician too. So they all go hand in hand and do work together.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Just because you have a POLST doesn't mean you don't need a healthcare directive. If you didn't hear me in the last episode, I said it. Everybody needs a healthcare directive if you're 18 or older. Okay, very good. Thank you, Ariana. And we are going to do one more episode on this topic. We're going to get into the more heavy stuff, the assisted suicide and euthanasia, on the next episode. So come on back. And we hope you learned something today. We look forward to connecting with you next time.
Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Absolute Trust Talk Live. If you enjoyed listening in, then don't forget to subscribe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may listen by searching Absolute Trust Talk. While you're there, we would also love for you to leave us a review. And then why not share your favorite episodes with family, friends, or colleagues too? You can find all of our shows and corresponding show notes by visiting absolutetrustcouncil.com. You'll also find a variety of other free resources, including our ebooks, videos, blogs, presentations, and more. If you need help with your estate planning or administration, we also offer a free discovery call to help get the process started. You can find more information on booking your session by visiting absolutetrustcouncil.com/scheduling. If you join us for the broadcast, you can submit questions during the show. But if not, don't worry. You can always get in touch with us by sending a quick message to info@absolutetrustcouncil.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you soon. This podcast is not meant to take the place of legal advice from an attorney,
and does not create an attorney-client relationship. If you do have a legal question or issue, please consult with an attorney.